How do we rebuild better entrepreneurial ecosystems with a level playing field so those entrepreneurs facing barriers due to their demographics have direct access to knowledgeable entrepreneurs, small business advisors, financial experts, and capital?
In today's environment, we're seeing that the more inclusive an ecosystem is, the more entrepreneurs that can be part of have the opportunity and access to start and grow a business is so important. The challenge is not everyone has that fair shot. Unequal access leaves people behind. So from an economic perspective, you've got to have strong, vibrant economy, yes, but you got to have businesses that are led by women, by people of color, by people in rural environments, all these different demographics and geographies that were just having the hardest time getting in the game.
Putting a lens of inclusivity of anyone who wants to engage creates a very powerful positive feedback loop in that city, because the startup community often is the innovation engine of the health, growth, and development of the city over time. So if you're allowing that innovation engine or enabling that innovation engine to be inclusive of anyone who wants to engage, you start to wire the notion of broad inclusivity into everything that's going on around entrepreneurship as you generate the next wave of new innovation on many dimensions in that place.
So when we think about here in our organization, in our community, how we fuel innovation, how we fuel creativity and an economy that works for everyone, we don't just say that diversity is a nice to have, that it is something that is charitable. We say it's necessary for our economy to grow. It's not just important for communities of color to have entrepreneurship for themselves or for different neighborhoods or districts to have small businesses that are thriving, but we say it's important for those businesses who are owned by communities of color to have family sustaining jobs that continue to grow, because that is the only way that our economy is going to grow. But that requires a shift in the mindset of supplier diversity officers, of procurement officers inside corporations, to not only be thinking about those supplier diversity programs as charitable, but to be thinking of them as core business units.
You know, something I always say that you can have a diverse room of people. You can have an inclusive room of people. Doesn't mean the room of people is equitable. And so the equity, everyone having an equal voice, an equal shot, an equal seat at the front table is really important. And I see in our entrepreneur support organizations through a range of different barriers that get in the way of entrepreneurs starting businesses are really looking at how that equity piece. And I'll center it out, I'll anchor it in capital for this question. Is the lack of capital, or access to capital, is one of the greatest obstacles that underrepresented and underserved entrepreneurs have.
In the context of startup communities and entrepreneurship, there are actually multiple types of capital in a geography. And one of the challenges, and it could be geography, and it also could be in industry, it could be in any sort of socioeconomic class or background of the entrepreneurs or network that exists. And the idea is not, oh, you don't have financial capital, don't worry about it. It's, oh, there's a real dearth of financial capital in lots of places. Interestingly, though, many of the cities, especially cities that have lots of other capitals, have plenty of money in those cities. It's just not allocated towards entrepreneurship.
We're actually coming back in to repair damage that has been done. We're coming back in to give wealth back that has oftentimes been extracted, particularly when we're talking about communities of color. And so seeing entrepreneurism as a vehicle to then repair the damage that has been done, to give back the wealth that has been extracted from those particular communities of color, in particular for Black and Native communities, then we have to be intentional in thinking about place, race, gender, and income at the same time, but with very targeted solutions that don't look through the lens to say what is missing in those particular populations that then we need to repair, but to think about the assets that exist within those populations and how is entrepreneurism then a vehicle to then move communities forward economically.
Entrepreneurship is fundamentally a positive sum game. In communities, in cities, in states, in countries, both place-based, gender-based, race, ethnicity. They can be very powerful positive sum games within and across all of those dimensions. the cliche is rising tides lift all boats. Well, I think anybody that knows that cliche knows that rising tides lift some boats, but not necessarily all boats. But if you focus on this notion that it's a positive sum game, I don't have to win at the expense of you losing, but I can win and you can win.